Okay, we're live. So I'm going to take this window out of here. All right, I'm going to pause this. Move this here. Oops. Just lost my thing. Okay, move this here. All righty, welcome everybody. We will get started right at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock Central. I'm going to turn my camera off and we'll see you guys here in just a few moments. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us both on YouTube, Facebook, and here on Zoom. We will be starting here in just a few moments, and we are so excited to share this event with you guys today. All righty, we know we have some people still shuffling in, so we're going to give it just another minute and then we will go ahead and get started. So if you have questions, you can go ahead and start to populate those on the chat box, or you can tell us where you're joining us from and what grade levels you are as well. All right, everyone, we want to thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar. The CodeMonkey team wants to thank you all for joining us for our webinar and bringing your questions for us. We had some really great questions beforehand. We want to thank those of us that are joining us on Facebook and YouTube for today's event. Our goal of today's webinar is to really get you excited about coding and to give you a first look into what it looks like to own a coding company. And we know that this year has been anything but normal, and we hope that, if anything, this coronavirus pandemic, endemic has shown you that our world is going even more digital. If you would like to ask any questions during today's event, please write it in the chat box, or if you're joining us on Zoom, you can also place it in the Q&A box. So you can also follow us on our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube, or you can also check out our CodeMonkey blog. It's always up to date with some new fun trends and unplugged activities and different topics that we cover. So we hope that you give us a chance to check that out as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to meet the team that's going to be hosting alongside myself. So my name first, I'm the MC for today's event. My name is Lena Saleh, and I'm the Professional Development and Sales Manager. And basically what that means is that I work with teachers to train them on how to become CodeMonkey teachers. And then I also help your teachers purchase to bring CodeMonkey to you. And now I'm going to let the rest of my panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Molly Schubach. I am a member of the sales team here at CodeMonkey and joining today to help answer questions through Zoom. So thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brett Eskelson. I also work on the sales team here and help schools and teachers get started using CodeMonkey, and we're really excited to have everyone here.
I concur with that. All right, and now, most importantly, who you've been waiting to meet today, and you are going to now meet our founder, Ido Shore.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Ido Shore. I'm a co-founder of CodeMonkey Studios and the CTO, which is Chief Technology Officer. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ido. And I know everyone is very excited to be able to hear your story. So today's webinar is going to be learning about what is CodeMonkey from the founder himself, his story, and we're going to do an interview style Q&A session here. And then we also took your questions and we're going to ask him your questions as well as what questions you've asked in the Q&A. Some people are asking, when does this end? This will be about 40 minutes or so. So just so you have that on your agenda. So CodeMonkey began in 2014 with Ido, his brother, and one of their childhood best friends. They are computer programmers by nature, and he'll be able to share his story with you today. And basically, when they started to begin teaching coding to kids, they realized that they much prefer to learn it in a more gamified way. And so that's how CodeMonkey was born. And so today we have about 20 million users worldwide. So we hope that if you haven't checked us out during this Hour of Code event, that you at least give us a try. I think you'll really enjoy collecting bananas as much as we do. So now it is time for our interview. So I hope you all are as excited as we are. So first question for you, Ido, is how did you first get interested in programming and coding and developing?
Yeah, so it was probably like 20 years ago when I was about 10, 12, about that age. There was a program called Flash. You might still see it sometimes, like your browser would tell you Flash is disabled. So it's an old technology that's no longer much in use, but it was a cool technology for like making like small animations in games. And I was like playing games myself, and I wanted to create some of my own. So I had a book of how to like how to work with Flash. So yeah, this is like an example of something I made probably when I was like 11 years old. Like a small animation, it's a screenshot of the animation. Actually does a few things, and there's like a little bit of interaction. So like I was making small games and just writing a little bit of code and learning how to code just a little bit while doing it. So yeah, it was the very first experience I had coding.
Great. And as you can see here, it didn't start out as amazing as CodeMonkey is today. So I think that's great to see an example of how you began your coding journey. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so our next question is, what was your first job right after you finished college? And you'll hear Ido say university because Ido lives in Israel, if you did not know. And so there they call it university, and here we call it college.
That's right. I'm from Israel, and English is my second language. So forgive me if I take a little more time. Yeah, so after university, I worked as a programmer in this company that did basically algorithms for medical things. Like I was doing this program which took a bunch of images of eyes of patients and just trying to make the eye doctors work a little easier by matching eye images together, and it was actually as more boring than it sounds. Wasn't very exciting. Actually, I guess I should be thankful it wasn't very exciting, because it did drive me to work on something that I do like, which is CodeMonkey, and start that. So I did enjoy the process in that first job. I did enjoy having something working and helping, something important. But the day-to-day was kind of a letdown. So yeah.
Totally understand that. I think everybody can relate. And those of you, when you reach out of college, you'll also understand sometimes you don't always love your job as much as you would like. So we hope we spark some joy for you today. So can you tell us, so we know that you didn't really love your first job, but you enjoyed the experience that you gained from that first job. But what made you decide that you wanted to get started with CodeMonkey?
So the ideas in CodeMonkey, and like many of the ideas, started from me and my brother Jonathan talking. He had experience teaching kids to code, and he had experience using just seeing what works and what doesn't work. Like we both grew up playing computer games, but I was like always more involved in that. Always liked just being creative with music and with art. So from these conversations and just seeing how he used to teach coding, we got the idea of just taking something that actually worked well, which was the logo programming language, another technology that is kind of old. Taking that idea and taking it further, making it a game, like putting a monkey in there, like a cute monkey, and having a story around it. Just yeah, like you said, we thought about how we would like to learn coding, and we just it made a lot of sense to do it that way.
Very great. Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about, and we all love the fun monkey. I do know that Ido has a fun fact for us, and I know that he did some of the music for CodeMonkey.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that music is still in the game. I think maybe the only thing that's left that we haven't replaced because when you work on a product, you keep like iterating. Like we had this, things like you make like a very harsh sound when you fail a challenge, and then people will tell you that's a little bit too harsh, and we would replace it with like a smaller ding or something. So we keep iterating even on the sound. But I think the one thing that I did like compose and state is like just a little da 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 da. That's when you finish when you collect all the bananas. So that stayed. And yeah, we grew a little from there, and we could hire professional musicians to do the to do the music.
To take over that. Although Ido is quite
Yeah.
talented in music. So not only does he program, he also plays some music, which is more than we can say for some of the rest of us. So can you tell everyone, I know you kind of touched over this briefly in the beginning, but can you tell everyone what your role is within CodeMonkey?
Yes, so the title is Chief Technology Officer, and it can mean a few different things in a few different companies. In our company, it means I manage the development team. So we have the development team is 3 developers who code a product and code like everything around, like either the games themselves or everything around the games, making sure users can log in and the website is up and that everything is working and working on new features. So I manage the developers, I manage our product manager, and I oversee. So basically, it means overseeing the product.
And so that means the product is CodeMonkey. So that's what you guys all see on your side. So he makes all of everything that you see him do on CodeMonkey has to do with Ido and his team. So what are
the
some
product
things
is, as I said, sorry, I might explain. So the product is, so there's a lot of faces to it. If you're a student, then maybe you log in and you see, you can play a game, but there are lots of other parts of it that you might don't see. Like maybe only your teacher can see a whole bunch of screens, and maybe like there are all kind of things that are working behind the scene to make sure like everything is working smoothly. So yeah, lots of aspects to that.
Yeah, basically the brain of CodeMonkey, part of Ido and his team. So what are some things that you do day to day? So when you go into the office or you start working you start your day, what are some things that you do in your day to day?
So a big part of my job is working with my developers. So if the people listening, the students listening now have tried a bit of coding on CodeMonkey, so they know what it means. Basically, you can think of all coding as like solving small riddles. In CodeMonkey, it's the riddle is just getting the monkey to the banana. But the job of a CodeMonkey developer might consist of things like fixing a bug or having certain data moving back and forth. And there's a lot to it. Sometimes it's usually developers are independent and they can figure out themselves. But in many cases, there are many different ways to do one thing. So it's also something that happens in CodeMonkey. Sometimes you can use a loop, sometimes you can't use, sometimes you don't have to use a loop, but you can solve the same thing in a few ways. So there's a lot of discussions I have with my developers. It's less of using a loop, yes or no. It's more of like gets into like heavier questions revolving design as in how the code is structured. It's like in CodeMonkey, when you solve a CodeMonkey challenge, you do like 10 lines of code. The CodeMonkey app, meaning everything that's running behind the scenes and making sure that everything is working, consists of tens of thousands of lines of code. So it's like there are lots of considerations, a lot of things I talk with my developers on how to do in the right way. So
Yeah,
that's a big part
so-
of the job. Also, like figuring out what should be done, like how to solve problems for users, how to make the experience smoother or more fun,
So
more engaging.
lots and lots of things are done behind the scenes. And so we only see
Yeah.
a little bit of code, us on the front side of things, but Ido and his team are writing hundreds of lines of code. So, and they're having a lot of fun while they do it.
Hundreds of thousands.
And always problem solving along the way, because there's nothing worse than when you get through finishing your code and finding you have an error or it doesn't work so well as you immediately assumed it would.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Ido, is the most challenging part of starting your own company?
I would say when you're starting a new company, working on just an idea that you had, and it's hard to convince other people that your idea is valid and that something you thought about would be interesting to people. Like in the early days, we would get feedback like either from other developers or teachers. Everyone had like their own idea of like how you're supposed to learn to code, because that's the way they learn to code, or that's like that's the experience they had. And like just you do need to learn to listen to other people, but you do need to have a certain pride and just be sure of what you're doing. Yeah, because otherwise you just end up doing something that's already been done. So you gotta like you gotta be able to trust your gut. So yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes people don't always like when you trust your gut. Even though it's the right way, right?
Yeah, you're like as a founder, you're like you're taking a risk. Like you're in many cases you leave a job that you have to try something that might work and might leave you out of a job in a few months. But yeah, I've been privileged to go with my idea and try it out, and yeah, and it worked out.
What do you think what has been the most meaningful from your experience of starting your own company?
Well, I guess I really enjoy students who like getting feedback from students, getting feedback from kids. I enjoy seeing what kids do on the game builder. Like there's so many creative ways students are using the game builder that I like didn't think were possible. So it's really cool to see someone build on top of your ideas, like understand what you were doing and understand how to use a tool you created, and just using it and working off top on that and learning in the process. It's great to know, like it's great to know that I could have affected some kids who got a kick out of coding, thanks to the CodeMonkey. Yeah.
And actually, on that note, how many people? Weston asked this question about how many people a day do you think play CodeMonkey?
I'd have to look at the numbers. I think it's like tens of thousands now. I think it's about in that area. Depends if it's a school year or not. And yeah, hopefully we'll get like hundreds of thousands a day in Hour of Code.
Agreed. It's our favorite event of the year. We know that. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to transition from questions from the audience. So these are questions that our audience asked when they registered for today's event. And so this first question comes from Miss Janikowski. Sorry if I said your name incorrectly. From Homer, Illinois. What were your favorite subjects in school?
My favorite subject in school. I guess in high school, I didn't learn coding in middle school because I guess I was in school like about 15 years ago. And then I only started to learn coding in high school. And I was really into that. I had just a little experience, as I said, in Flash, but we were learning a language called Pascal, and I actually remember like we got in the computer room and we had like an assignment like to make some kind of program that does something. I don't remember what was the task, but I just remember like finishing it early and then doing like something fun with code. So that was fun.
If you don't know what Pascal language is, definitely recommend you Googling it to check out what that language is. It's one of the beginning languages, right?
It's an old-fashioned one, yeah. It's I think if you read, you can read some Pascal, and like if you've coded before, you can kind of get what it's up to. But it's definitely looks weird if you learned like CoffeeScript or JavaScript.
Great. This one comes from, I believe, Miss Lyle from New York, Alabama. What is the hardest part of coding?
So there are many hard parts in coding. What is the hardest part? Well, there's like a kind of a
it's when I make an error.
Yeah, bugs are hard. Mostly if you ask coders, there's a thing called, usually they would say something like naming things. So I guess if you, maybe if you did the game builder, you maybe sometimes have to name a thing, meaning like, I don't know, name a character, but this character can be the villain, but then it can also be the hero, or just naming concepts, figuring out like what a part of the code does is and how to just give it a very descriptive name. So a lot of much about coding is just being able to write code that other humans can understand, not only the machine can understand, but also other humans can read what you did and understand. So that part is hard. So yeah.
I totally agree. Sometimes I'm not a very good coder, so I'm just a very beginner coder, but sometimes when I look into the people's codes when they're doing a sprint, which is a lot of a very long coding project, and you look and you see it's very overwhelming. You see how much code goes into there. So I can totally understand why it's important to be descriptive, not only for your team, but for other people.
Yeah.
This one comes from Miss Simon from Palmol. I don't even know how to say that city, so sorry about that. From Pennsylvania, that part I do know. What types of careers do you think are available in coding?
That's a good question. So I guess I took one career path, which was like at the beginning of CodeMonkey, I was doing most of the coding, and then we grew, and what I do now is mostly manage other developers, but I do still write some code myself. So that's one career path, just being a developer and then maybe manage other developers once you have enough experience. There are other career paths. So some developers become product managers, which are basically the people who decide what to code, like what should the product look like what should the game look like, what should the dashboard for the teacher look like. So they usually need to understand a bit of coding because they work with coders. And then like a third one I can think of is working with data. So we have someone in the company who learned computer science and is now doing marketing. But in this day and age, like so much of the marketing is done online and it's with data, and you need to know how to code, like how to work with that data, like data that can say like people in Uruguay are interested in coding, maybe you should put an advertisement for them, and, you know, or something like everyone like challenge 25 in coding adventure is too hard because 50% of people who started don't finish it. So all these things, like in many cases, require a little bit of coding to get the insight out of the data.
So you're saying you have to understand some data, which I know lots of you learn in your day-to-day schooling, and it plays quite a bit of an importance in the coding side of things, right?
Yeah, like data and coding are really like, you can't have one. Well, I guess you can have data without coding, but you can't have coding without data. Everything is about, yeah, numbers and text and, you know, things like that.
I agree. And I know that in our company, and we talked about this in our other webinar, that there are other sides in a company that does coding as well. Like myself, I work with teachers and training them. And there's other people who work on the advertisements for CodeMonkey and what you see on the webpage and all of the graphics. So there's lots of teams, but knowing a little bit of code helps get your foot in the door with all of these coding platforms. And we know that digital is where, you're interacting with us virtually right now too. So we have Miss Liam Barker, excuse me. I see somebody said that was their teacher in Skillman, New Jersey. And her question was, what types of careers are available? Oh, whoops, I messed that up. They would like to know if you have any advice for 3rd and 4th graders to be successful.
So I guess it would be, well, I would say I would split my advice to two. I was, you have to work hard. Like you have to study and you have to get in the details, and you shouldn't be afraid to fail, because when you do coding and when you learn things that are hard, like math, it's going to be hard. So so be ready to like to study hard for that. But also, I guess the other part of that is find your passion. So like I guess I was lucky that, yeah, my passion led me in a good career path. But it's like you gotta work on something that you're passionate about.
I agree. And I think also what you mentioned earlier about trusting your gut, I think is also something important, because sometimes we think we're interested in something and sometimes you give it a try and it might not just be the right thing. So I think also you said something about being able to handle failure is a big piece of all of that as well.
Definitely.
So this next one comes from Miss Watts in Cartersville, Georgia. How can block coding benefit students rather than just doing text-based coding like Python or JavaScript?
So block coding is helpful. It's a very it's a good entry point for young kids to get into the world of logic and coding. CodeMonkey started out as a completely text-based platform. We only did games that made you type, use the keyboard like a real programmer, and it is a very important aspect of coding. Like real world coders use like this drag and drop interface, and the reason is they are limited. they become a crutch at some point. So it's a barrier that eventually, if people really want to understand and know how to code, you gotta get across the drag and drop interfaces into text-based coding programming languages. But text-based is harder than drag and drop and Blockly platforms. So yeah, so it's a good entry point. But I recommend looking at the text bases like the next thing. And
that's the next step. I would agree.
Yeah.
I do think the block base tends to be easier, but it also helps you learn exactly what you're saying. It's a really great next step for learning how to code, because now you've learned all the computational thinking and now you know how things kind of work together. So it kind of lays the foundation, I think, for the next. We had this question here. What is the difference in our chat? What's the difference between JavaScript and Python?
So JavaScript and Python are two programming languages. So you could ask, I could say what a programming language is. So a programming language is kind of like two programming languages differ like two human languages differ. So French and English are two different languages. They can both express, you can use either French or English to say something like, I'm hungry, I want to eat a burger. But these are, you would say differently in French. So two programming languages are, yeah, they're equal in the way they can do the same thing, usually in most cases, but they look different and behave differently. So Python and JavaScript are different programming languages. They both can solve like almost entirely the same problems, but they do it differently. But it's a big but, JavaScript is the only language that can run in a browser. So if you're thinking of doing a project, if you're thinking of starting your own website and putting out this like a small game on the website, you will have a much harder time doing it on Python. You should learn JavaScript. But if you have other concerns, then look into Python.
It's a good tip. Why do you think, this is from Miss C in Austin, Texas, actually where I am. Why is it important, do you think, for students to learn how to code?
So learning how to code, first of all, it's, as we like talked about and people have asked, yeah, it's a good skill to have, as we said, like if you're thinking about like career-wise, but even if you don't, like I'm thinking of that, I think it's good to know some coding, because like we're using a program now and we just like so much of our life is digital. And I think it's important to just be aware of how these things work, and like just understanding things like what's a bug. Like bugs can be like they can be like very serious things, like in our digital world, right? They can stop a classroom, like a lesson from happening. They can stop cars from working. Like bugs are like very important. So I think it's important people know like how code works and like what does it mean like to have a bug. It's important for people like to understand how the internet works and how their information is used and can be used, and what it means for their like security. I think it's important to like just because so much of our world is digital. It should not be. People shouldn't look at it as like complete magic that is unexplainable, because it is explainable. Yeah. Like it's all been written by people who went to school and learned how to code, and they just wrote it, and they're just that. They're just people who sometimes make mistakes, and it's important that everyone like kind of understand what is going on in the digital world.
I agree. And cybersecurity has been the hot button issue for quite some time, especially from this COVID pandemic. So it's good to hear that you also share that insight of the importance of it. I'm going to take one question here from our Q&A. This is a fun one. Do you think if you hadn't gotten into CodeMonkey that you would have pursued a career in music?
I thought about it before I went to school. So I was actually, so I'm from Israel, and I was in the army, as most Israelis who turn 18 go to the army. So when I got out at 21, I was thinking about a career in music. But I guess it was kind of like what I talked about before about passions. So I was enjoying music, but I wasn't really passionate enough to make it my living. Especially in music, it's very hard to make a living out of it. So now music is just a hobby for me, and I'm glad that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And
sounds like you're still very passionate about coding, so it's good to be able to share that.
Yeah. So it's actually in everything you do for a living. I think you can find like aspects of it that do excite you. So yeah, it wasn't always fun working on CodeMonkey. There have been hard times, and there have been times that I had to do something like maybe a little boring or like that. But yeah, I think it's important that you do something, like you focus on the area in your work that you are passionate about.
I think that's important to keep in mind, that you might not always love it 100% all the time, but it still gives you that, you still know what I think it's important to know what your true north is. And it sounds like you do know what that is. Yeah. This question comes from Mr. Omen in Converse, Texas. Ooh, another Texas. What qualities or skills do you think is important to obtain in this field? And I think you mentioned failure, obviously. Maybe even the ability to communicate with other people, and maybe even take some feedback. Do you have anything else that you think are some important features that kids, or skills, qualities they should have?
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. I think communication is underrated. There's like this, I guess, this false ideal of a programmer that is completely false. But like sometimes you would see in movies like a programmer just sitting alone at his desk, just typing for the whole night and just coming up and, oh yes, I made it. I like hacked the mainframe, or I wrote Facebook in a day or something like that. But that is so out of touch with reality. The reality of coding is just being able to communicate with your peers and being respectful of other people's opinion about your work, and being able to communicate to your peers about their work and give feedback and get feedback. Those are the virtues of good programmers, not like being able to like crunch, like just be alone with the computer all day and write code all night. That's not a good lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. It's true. You have to have a little bit of variance from that. So in the effort of time, we're going to take one more question from our audience that we had here. And I think this is probably my most favorite and best question. Why did you name CodeMonkey CodeMonkey?
So as I talked about before, about the conversations we had, me and Jonathan had, I guess I kind of like monkeys. They're cute. My partner, she also really likes monkeys. She used to volunteer with monkeys in South America once, and I guess I was just thinking about monkeys. Monkeys were just in my head, and then we thought about doing like a game that is like having a character move across the screen, and then there was this term CodeMonkey, which is like kind of means a bad thing, like a coder that's like not really excited about what they do. But I thought it would be cute to give it like a twist of like, no, it's a cute little monkey and he's collecting bananas and it's a game, and like it's all like all the puzzle pieces came together and like it made a lot of sense to just have the character a monkey, have the name CodeMonkey, and just go with that.
We're happy that we did make CodeMonkey into more of a fun term than what it was originally used for. Yeah. So we just want to round out today by telling all of you and sharing all of your experiences with us today and making sure you had your questions. There were so many great questions that all of you asked beforehand. Thank you so much to Ido as well for sharing your story with all of our audience, and especially because we know it is pretty late there in Israel. So we're glad that he was able to join us and spend some time and share your stories. And we hope that this sparks some joy for you, whether you decide you want to become a computer programmer or you just want to explore owning your own business someday. Hopefully you had some really great takeaways. We want to thank you guys so much again for joining us during the Hour of Code week, the best week, in our opinion, of the whole year. So we hope you check out us on our Hour of Code through code.org or on our own webpage. And if you check out our new space adventure course, it's one of our favorite. What's better than being in space? You know, you can code in space, and maybe eventually Elon Musk will take you to space. So you never know where that will take you. So thank you again, everybody. And thank you so much to our team, Brett, Molly, and Ido, of course, the shining star of today's webinar. And as always, write code, catch bananas, and save the world. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.